Hello, everybody. This is the Henderson Real News Show. Organize, don't criticize. This is the first show for 2024. I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we had a very successful year. Last year, of course, 2022. And this year, we will be doing something different. I will have several shows during the early evening on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and possibly Friday. And then from 9 to 10 every night, starting tomorrow, matter of fact, starting tonight, it'll be the Doc and Sock Show on WeBelieveDigital.com. Now, doing the L. Henderson Real News Show, Organize, Don't Criticize, which is currently going on, starting now, we will have something different in 2024. From time to time, I will have guests, I will have educators, politicians, corporate leaders, and just regular citizens that we know that need to come on and address what's going on in their community and their perspective. I don't think it's appropriate for all the big-time leaders in a city or a state to make all the decisions. I want to get the lay person, the person that's living on the street from time to time, the gangbangers, the prostitutes, and anyone that's in this area that want to come on this show that has a message, because no matter what the preachers and the politicians do, when they make policy, they have to include all the citizens. It usually starts at the top. But the L. Henderson Real News Show, Organize, Don't Criticize, will be doing it different in 2024. If a policy is made, we're going to see what the people have to say about what they want. Started at the bottom of the barrel. And once you get those ideas, it can move up the chain. And when the politicians, the city mayors, and the Board of Aldermen and others, especially the citizen councils in the states, in the nation, and in the world, can all get together and make a decision and include everyone. We will have some tough questions for these people. And if any of you all that's listening that would like to be a guest on the L. Henderson Real News Show on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, all you have to do is call me, 601-201-1957. Initially, we are going to ask you to be a local person or get an opportunity to come to the Jackson, Mississippi area. We will schedule you a week in advance, maybe 2 weeks in some instances. But later on, we'll do online reports. We'll probably Zoom you in. We'll do something that's going to fit your schedule and your time, so you won't have to come to Jackson, Mississippi. But it's going to take a few weeks to get that done. But keep in mind, if you want to participate starting next week, all you have to do is call L. Henderson at 601-201-1957. That number again is 601-201-1957. All you have to do is tell us that you want to participate on the show. We will ask you to give us a few talking points and what your role is in your community, and we'll take it from there. So I want you to keep that in mind. We must be different. But now if you can't defend yourself and answer questions, we think you better not call us, because we're not going to babysit you and make you feel comfortable just by asking you one-liners, and then you expect to give us one or two words. You want to be able to have a conversation about what you want, what you need, and how your problems can be addressed on the local, state, and international level. The L. Henderson Real News Show is always going to be about you, black folks, worldwide, because the thesis here is that if you want to gain status as a real citizen and not be considered an outcast and a permanent member of society, I tell you folks, you have to make your decisions. And your decision-based should be starting where you are with your own resources, starting on the precinct level, the city level, the county level, the region level, the state level, and internationally. That's the way we're going to address this in 2024. We also going to set up a community route where we will be moving around with the L. Henderson team, going to various cities We will be attending city council meetings with county supervisors throughout the state and other areas, and a variety of community organizations, and have the shows coming directly from those sites. We will also have podcasts that will be scheduled at another time, and we're just going to give you unlimited data with solutions, folks, so you can understand that if you want to be prepared for survival, you must learn to pool your resources, organize, and not criticize the human enemies of mankind, their relatives, and their financial supporters. That's what it's all about. And that's why we will start this evening by telling you that as black people worldwide, you better get ready for some new things to happen in the world. And I have to announce, and I will be the first one to talk about it, and later on, in about 6 months, you're going to hear this a lot. I want to tell you, folks, that you better get ready. And when I say better get ready, that means you must get ready for some changes in your life, because we have what we call a hot nation. We have hot states. We have political problems that's going to turn into international problems. We have international problem that's going to impact the people in Mississippi, in the South, in the nation, and all over the world. It's going to be a mixture of trouble. And as I always tell you, and been telling you for years, it's not going to be water. It's going to be fire next time. And that's why throughout 2024, when we talk about organize, don't criticize, I will be talking to you about something that's going to hurt you hard, going to make you feel that you have your time limited to a short period, because I'm going to talk to you about World War III, Part 1, and possible Part 2. Now, as we go through the coming months, I will explain that in detail, and you will see exactly what trend is developing that will tell you and show you that something is getting ready to happen in this world, and is going to include the United States, and it's going to include you. Now, just because you have all the trouble in the world now, outside of what we call the 50 states of the United States, most of the trouble now is in Europe, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and everywhere. But your folks are constantly involved in all of these activities, but they are doing it, as we say, away from you. In about 6 months, and especially about 9 months from now, about October, you're going to have some major shifts in military attacks throughout the world. And I would tell you folks, you're going to be impacted, and that is why I'm going to tell you during this show as a summary of what you can expect and where this problem is going to end. But I'll tell you more and more as the weeks pass, the end result, where we say no water this time, but fire. How are you going to deal with that heat? How are you going to deal with those bombs that's going to be falling all over the world? How are you going to deal with those missiles that's going to be coming to you and around you at night from all over the world? You are not going to be immune. You will be involved directly and indirectly. But as the years pass, closer to 2024 end, I say October, November, December, you're going to see some real developments in the world. And I want to tell you, folks, most of these problems that I have been addressing for the last 6 months, where last year, about 5 months ago, I'd announced that something called World War III Part 1 is upon us. A lot of people called me, gave me some calls and emails and say, well, Doc, I don't think that's happening. Now you see, it is happening. And that's why I want to give you a good summary today and tell you what's going to refresh this new activity. It's old, but it's going to be new. It's going to be comprehensive. And this new activity that I'm addressing now, World War III Part 1, possibly Part 2 in about 9 months, is going to be the stimulant in what I call the Middle East. Right now, I told you 2 weeks ago, there are about 350 small wars going on in the world, in Asia, Africa, Russia, Ukraine, Latin America, over there in the Middle East. Everywhere there's some little, what we call small-time wars going on. But every time you read the news, every time you look at magazines and newspapers, or even look on Twitter and YouTube, you find that a new nation is becoming involved. We call it the hot war. They're shooting missiles. They are bombing buildings. They're committing attacks. And later on, you're going to find the old system being incorporated into world attacks, and that is the suicide missions. Even in America, in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, you're going to have these things happening. And that's why we're going to talk to you about it and give you some solutions so you can be prepared. During the year, I will be telling you how, as a group of citizens, or alleged citizen, as unwanted citizen, as outcast, as members of the permitted underclass in America and the world, as black people, that there are certain things you must do if you want to be saved. And when I'm talking about being saved, I don't mean being lived and dying and going to heaven. I'm talking about living in your area with the intent of being independent and with the desire to stay where you are. And I'm going to show you that if you do certain things, you will be able to do that. And time it gets hot and the bombs start falling, the suicide missions start happening, you won't have to relocate like they're doing throughout the world. That is defending yourself. We're going to talk about it. Now, black people throughout the world have never defended themselves other than a few at a time. Throughout the history of the world since 1400, black people have always been saying, I'm going to turn the other cheek. Your adversaries will come into your area and you just move on. You let them have it. You let them make you inferior through their culture, through their religion, and make you feel that whatever you had, your language, your attitude towards life, your God, and everything else would be insignificant. And you would always turn the other cheek and say, I'm waiting for my time. I'm telling you now, folks, you can't wait any longer because you're going to be relocated if you don't do something for yourself and use the old strategy that I've been talking to, and we have done research on this to show you that if you want to become a permanent citizen, a permanent member of your society, you have to do the following. One, wherever you're in the majority, started on the precinct level, you have to do several things. One, you have to organize as black folks. I didn't say as minorities. You have to organize as black folks. I'm talking about what I call the native black Americans. And I want you to understand, you're not black African Americans because 99% of the black people, no, I think the latest information is 98% of the black people in America today have 3 generations of parents that were born in America. So therefore, from now on, you will not hear me say anything about African Americans. I'm going to talk about native black Americans, natives, over 3 generations. Very few blacks in America, very few, have anything to do with Africa. So therefore, 98% of your relatives during the last 3 generations were born in America. So you're not an African American. You are a native black American. Now, look at the other stat. That is, about 1% or slightly less of blacks in America or African Americans that were born in Africa. They've been coming over here off and on, but not in large numbers, for quite a few years now. They're coming from all the African countries, 2,000 or 3,000 at a time, 200 or 300 at some years. Other years they had no Africans coming over here legally. They had Africans coming from Latin America, from the Caribbean, less than 1%. And then that's 99% of blacks in America. And then there's another about 700,000 or 800,000, almost a million, that are what I call mulatto blacks that were born in America through white parents, male and females, starting after 1808 in a significant manner, when they said we could not import blacks from Africa anymore. We're going to have to get them from the Caribbean area. We're going to have to move them from the north, the east, the west, and the south, and move them deep south. When I say deep south, I'm talking about Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama. And then they said, we need more. We need more black folks because of, due to inventions and other activity, the work production list grew and they needed more blacks. So the plantation owners decided, I'm going to get out of a lot of agriculture. I'm just going to create me an elite breeding farm. I'm going to breed Africans and do them just like we do our prize cattle, our prize mules, our prize pigs. We're going to breed them and get the strongest male and the strongest female we can find that are for certain height, certain size. And we're going to feed them well and not work them very hard and expect them starting at 13 to 28 to start having kids for us or children. We're going to call them property just like their mothers and fathers, and we're going to sell them throughout the nation. They're going to be our prize hybrids. We are going to call that man-made blacks. And these blacks will be totally dependent upon what we call the owners of chattel. That means they own you lock, stock, and barrel and put you on the same list with the other animals, the cattle, the plows, the wagons, the sheep, the mules, black folks. That happened from the late 1600s to 1865. And as I tell you things, ladies and gentlemen, some of you are not going to believe me. You're going to say the man is crazy. We are not appreciate it. I know we are not, but I don't think what he's saying is a fact. The people love us because they passed a constitution that was set up for all Americans. But I'm telling you, folks, when you read the Constitution, you're going to find, if you look at it closely, you were not included. Then you're going to say, well, what about the Declaration of Independence? That was before the Constitution. We were considered then, were we? No, you were not. You were still considered an outcast, even though you fought in the American Revolution. You fought for your freedom during the late 1700s. You fought for your non-freedom in all the wars in America, and especially in the big wars. World War I, World War II, the war in Korea, the war in Vietnam, and all of those little conflicts before and after then that's constantly rising today and getting stronger and stronger. And that's why in a few minutes we're going to take a break, and then I'm going to get into the specifics and tell you what's making this problem increase to the point where you're going to have to organize yourselves where you are. You're going to have to pool your resources and start creating a new man by doing the following. You're going to have to recruit new leaders. You're going to have to train them, then select them and place them in institutions so you can determine your destiny in at least 5 areas. You're going to have to put new people in positions of leadership, in education, in economic development, in religion. You're going to have new leaders. And thus, that's when you get your politicians. You're going to have new politicians in America, in Africa, and other areas. Those that are selected and trained by you. Anytime, as I conclude, getting ready for this first commercial, anytime you let other folks' money select and finance your leaders, they are not your leaders. Those folks are their leaders. So stay tuned for a few commercials, and we'll be back in a minute or two. Call someone while we're taking this break. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee. To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Okay, folks, thank you for staying with us. This is the L. Henderson Real News Show. Organize, don't criticize the human enemies of mankind, because the human enemies of mankind, their relatives and their financial supporters, have always said, black folks, that you are not important, that you are considered property. You are considered owned by them. And when I say them, I mean European Americans initially, and then thus other Americans as they moved here from Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and other places. All the other so-called minorities are superseding you as important people in the economic, political, and social pecking order. Been telling you for some time, our research shows that you have been moved down from position number 2 to low down, position number 10 in the economic, political, and social pecking order in America. And folks, I'm telling you, your situation as black Americans, as the Africans throughout the world, you are getting in a pronounced situation where you are going to be significantly impacted by this new thrust that I call World War III Part 1. And later on, I'm going to have to upgrade this thing and call it World War III Part 2. You'll see when that happens. So now let's start with the most important initiatives that's going to make this war that I'm talking about move to a point where it's going to be worldwide, where people will start sleeping less at night when they start thinking about what's going to be happening to them because it happened in another state, in another country close by, where people were assassinated, where they were blown up by suicide bombers, where a bomb accidentally exploded and killed hundreds and thousands, where people were on the highway and you find long traffic jams because someone blew up vehicles down the road 5 or 10 miles in front of you. And that caused a stalemate for 12 to 14 hours. These things are going to be happening throughout the world because if you see from the beginning, which I'm about to share with you, that there's reason to believe that there will be increased fighting, increased hatred because of something that is happening right now in the Middle East that's always been expanding. But during the last 90 days, it has become more pronounced. And I'm talking about the Israeli, Hamas, and Palestinian conflict. Now let's start with Israel, for example. You will find that the nation of Israel is what we call a young nation. It was officially declared in 1948. But at the same time, as we review the history, which we're not going to go to at this time, and show you where the Israelis came from, we're not going to even talk about that today, but we're just going to tell you that in 1948, they were given an opportunity to have a state in another nation where they already had people. You've heard this before. They had a lot of Israelis from throughout the world to be given a homeland in Palestine, where the Arabs lived. They gave them a little small territory, and right today, you find that there are over 2 million Arab people living in the state of Israel. This is a very diverse nation, of course. Over 2 million Arabs. They're living there right now. And they are what I call approximately 25% of these Arabs are living harmoniously alongside the Jewish population. We call it the Jewish community. 25%. And then the other 75% are living outside of the Jewish state in territory that is controlled by Israel. Anytime you have a people that do not control their water, their utilities, their transportation, their health care, their heat, and another nation controls that, including their communication potential, you are not free. You are and have been colonized. And that is what's happening now that's going to cause this World War III Part 1 that I've been talking about for some time. You're going to find with 25% of the Arabs living alongside the Jewish community, sooner or later, you're going to think Hamas and those others that are fighting are going to say, well, and I don't want to say this, but history shows it. We have looked at the history of many wars and how people would fight. And at the same time, you look at the people that they were fighting that lived among them, and they had to take action against them, the so-called good people. So I want to know what's going to happen to the 25% of the Arabs that's living harmoniously alongside the Jewish community. 25%. Will it be the same thing that's happening to the 75% that don't live in that community, that have their own little enclaves in what we call the other part of Palestine? I will let you determine that. And when you find a lot of Arabs, both Muslims and Christians, living together, all pretending that they are God worshippers, all pretending that they are children of God, all pretending that they love their own brothers, but fighting and killing them every day, every night. You have to think about, where is that brotherhood? Where is that Christianity? Whose God is going to be predominant in those areas? And I'm telling you, the Israelis have done something that we ought to be doing in Mississippi, in Africa, in Asia. They have a policy that is very, very comprehensive, and that is they have a military service that is compulsory for most Israelis, male and females. We ought to have that in the United States. Every male and female in America that's 17 or 18 should serve 2 to 3 years in some type of military component that's going to be something like public service with pay, where they teach them to love their nation, where they give them a skill where they can be able to serve the country and then get out and enhance their skills or get involved in some kind of education pursuit so they can become real citizens. That's what they are doing right now in Israel, where military service is compulsory for the most of young people, and the males do usually about 3 years. And the young ladies in Israel serve their country for about 2 years. And this gives them a strong part of love, a strong sense of love for their country. And during this period, ladies and gentlemen, they can take on various roles, from operating drones, becoming media spokespersons, learning how to fight in cities and suburbs, learning how to be involved in intelligence. Because I told you, a lot of the people in Israel are Arabs, and they love their national status. It's sort of like a black person during slavery that was looked at as different from the other blacks that lived on the same plantation. They had a little more trust, and the slave masters would give them a little more opportunity to be closer to him or to them. And they would be hanging around them, thinking that they were loved. And many of them were not as stupid as the slave owners thought. They will find out what's going on and share this information. And this is exactly what 25% of the Arabs are going to start doing when they look at the fact that I might be next. 75% of us in this area are catching hell. I'm in the military already. I'm trained, and I don't know what I'm going to do. But they will come up with something, I guarantee you. We're going to talk about it as it happens. A lot of people don't want to hear things like this. They don't even want to think it's going to happen, but there are going to be more internal conflicts throughout the world. Look at what's happening in America today. These same groups, the Israelis, the Palestinians, the blacks, the Hispanics, college students, all kinds of students that are attending these big universities are taking sides, fighting each other, shooting each other. Many are dropping out of school. Others are afraid to go back in January to attend the school they've been going to for 2 or 3 years. They're dropping out. College presidents and professors have staked their ground. Many have lost their jobs because they are saying, I cannot take a position on who was right or wrong, the Israelis or the Palestinians. And the people with the power that have the money are going to determine the destiny of those folks that don't address the side that has the most money, the most influence. And I'm telling you, we'll do that later. We'll tell you who controls the money in this situation, who is the one that's making all the big bombs, the one that's making weapons for conflicts throughout the world. Some of you know who those folks are. We're not going to mention that at this time. But we're going to tell you that when you look at where this thing is getting ready to get to the intense, where it's going to be hot, not lukewarm. You know, the Lord doesn't like lukewarm. He wants you to be hot or cold. And since he said you won't have that cold water flowing, it's going to be hot from now on. You better get ready, folks. Because I told you last month, I'd rather swim in the water than try to wade through fire. At least I will have a chance to get under a cave or do something in that water. But when you have fire, it follows you wherever there is a hole. It goes into the caves, behind the mountains, burn down the forests, kill everything. Folks, that's bad news, but this is what you're going to have to face. So since you must organize, you ought to learn how to defend yourself, and that's why I'm saying that the people in Israel are smart folks. They said, we're going to train everybody how to protect themselves so at the same time they can protect their country. So folks in America, folks in Africa, folks in Asia, I'm talking about black folks now, get your people trained. I'm concerned about those that are 65 or younger. If you're 65 or older, it doesn't make too much difference what happens, because you are going to be all right, because under normal circumstances, if you're 65 or older, you don't have too many years. There would be a few exceptions where some of you live to be 85 to 100, but there's not going to be many. As this war moves and as supplies start being diminished, you will be finding fewer opportunities to go to the local hospital. You will have fewer and fewer drugs that you can afford to purchase for your welfare. You would have few opportunities that have food, clothing, shelter, because of the deserts that's going to be created, where you're not going to even have a hospital in your community. You already don't have grocery stores in most so-called black communities. You don't have a pharmacy. You don't even have a bank that you own or control. So if you have some money, you can't go to the bank and borrow any and buy things you want in certain parts of the area where there's a little more what I call affluence than in your area. They won't let you have that money. So folks, since you have to get to the point where you have to organize and pool your resources so you can start building a community, that'll give you an opportunity then to loan yourselves some of your own money that you're giving away to these churches and other places and what I call these clubs and gambling and so forth, wasting your time and money, where you can buy yourself some protection, where you can put your money in your own banks and go and borrow your money from people that look like you, that's on the bank board of directors, where you can get with community organizations that's doing the education and training of your children, where they have board members that look like you, that's going to offer the classes and the courses and teach you how to build drones, teach you what we call artificial intelligence, teach you how to learn and talk in different languages, teach you how to do more than play football or basketball. That's what I'm talking about, folks. Pooling your resources, teaching your own people, creating a new man, a new woman. And you do it only by recruiting your own folks. Then you're going to train them. And third, you're going to select them. And fourth, you're going to put these same young people in positions of responsibility in 5 areas of activity. First one, you're going to saturate those people that you have selected and trained. You're going to put them in education and training programs, in colleges, universities, high schools, public schools, private schools, church schools. Then you're going to get that same group and you're going to get them involved in the religious institutions in your community. You're going to create new preachers, new deacons, new mothers for the church, new leadership teams to be on the board of trustees. So some of the old leaders that are what I call been dominating these religious institutions, some churches have the same pastor and have had him for 15, 20, and 30 years. Some of them have been so long and I know a few like that, they've been around so long they should have retired years ago. As one just recently, I went to a church and he had to have two people standing right beside him. They propped him up behind the pulpit, and all he could do is just stand there. And people can't see that the two men that were standing on his right and left side had the foot right down by his, so he couldn't move. He was being propped up. We don't need propped up leaders, ladies and gentlemen. We need people that's able to communicate, able to have their own mind. We don't need these people that should have retired many years ago because they love their positions of responsibility, because they are usually what I call maintainers of the status quo. They keep things going as it's supposed to. And what they call the old way is their way, maintaining the status quo, keeping the same thing, such as miseducation, non-voting, loving your enemies, all kinds of stuff that would get you killed, ladies and gentlemen. Always accusing others when they do something to you, hurt you, kill you, and your own folks are doing you worse. You can look at the other side and say they need to be demonized. But your folks, your cousins, your son, your daughters that are killing you more than the other side, you don't say much about that. Matter of fact, you won't even turn them in. But if you have new people, the new man, the new woman, that's been trained to be leaders, that have the power and the ability to make policy, starting on the local level, you will have men and women that will call a spade and say, we're going to put together a comprehensive program with a prioritized corrective action plan that's going to set an agenda in all areas, and we are going to put together some goals and timelines, and we will be appointing people to manage these goals and objectives. And we're going to have this timeline for 30, 60, 90 days as we monitor what we are doing. And when we get up to 100%, we're going to call it shut and call it complete and get on the next program, get on the next project. Folks, this presentation I have today is 4 hours long, but my time is gone for today. I'll be back. I'm like the old prophets now. I'll be back. Some of you are not going to listen because you don't want to hear what the future is going to bring. You call folks like me crazy. That man is crazy. He's talking about that things not going to be smooth in the future. And he's talking about the recent future, 2024. He's telling me that I'm going to have to make some adjustments in my life, that I'm going to have to create a new man. He's talking about my children, my grandchildren. He's talking about those 65 and younger. Shall I do that, or shall I pray? I'm going to tell you what you do. You do it and pray. You got to work. Because if you don't work and you just pray and no work, your situation gets worse. So as I conclude this show, ladies and gentlemen, the Eldridge Henderson Real News Show, I want to tell you that if you want to contact us, all you have to do is call us at 601-201-1954 and say, I want you to come to my church. I want you to come to my family reunion. I want you to come to our school or our community organization and talk to us and give us the real news and teach us how to organize so we'll stop criticizing our people. If you don't want to call us, All you have to do is email us at clu369@gmail.com. I'm going to give it to you again. That's clu369@gmail.com. And we know all of you don't have computers, but most of you have cell phones. Again, you can call us at 601-201-1957. You call us and give us a possible date. Let us know what topic you want to be addressed. And then you give us the number of people that you expect to be there. And there are a few other details, and we'll tell you that when you call us. Because, folks, there are certain things we can't tell you on WeBelieveDigital.com. We can't tell you certain things in the newspaper, and we can't tell you certain things on the radio. Those things you hear on these shows are just summaries, but all you need to know now is summaries. You get the details, specific details, how to put those 30, 60, 90-day plans together, how to have that manager, how to have that project manager to direct those plans, how to set that agenda starting at the precinct level so you can move to your county, to your city, to your town, and to your state, and train, select, after you recruit some good folks, and put them in positions of responsibility. Positions of responsibility. That means they make decisions, they make policies, and they lead you from where you need to be for the next 300 years. Thank you very much. And you wait around for a few hours. We'll be back about 9 Mississippi time. From 9 to 10, we'll be back with the Doc and Sock Show. So I want to thank you for listening, and stay tuned. We're going to get some real news in 2024. Thank you very much.